Hello Steelers, and welcome to this painting video where I'm going to show you how I painted a platoon of British Paratroopers by the Plastic Soldier Company. These will be used in chain of command. These are 15mm, and this technique can be used if you're doing this scale or smaller, and for whichever game you want to play. Most of the paints I use are from Vallejo. I'll list them in the description below with an Amazon affiliate link, which gives me a little bit of money back if you buy anything through the link. For chain of command, I base my figures individually on 15mm diameter MDF bases. You can get these from War Bases or eBay or 1,000 other places that sell laser cut MDF. I superglue the figure to the base, and then using a flat-headed screwdriver I start to apply polyfiller, or spackle as it's also known in the US. I build up the shape of the base with the base of the figure. Then once this has dried, which usually takes overnight, I begin priming the figure. Now you can use what you like, but I tried to make this stage fit in with the rest of the painting, and I use the base colour for the Denison smock. This is Decorart Fawn, which is a cheap acrylic that can be found in many art shops. It's slightly lighter than Vallejo's khaki, which is good for my purposes. I generally do 2 coats with this with a biggish brush, but make sure everything is covered. When that has dried, I'll start working on the camouflage of the Denison smocks. In 15mm it's difficult to really make out any tiny details, so we're going for the 3-foot rule approach here. I mean, don't worry about perfection, this is more about impression. I'll use flat brown and I'll paint small blotches across the smock area. Don't worry about hitting other areas at this point, as these are all going to get covered up later anyway. When the brown has dried, we do the same with reflective green. Make sure that you don't entirely cover the brown or the base colour with green, but that you can see all 3 colours clearly. With the camo finished on the smock, I'll start detail work beginning with the flesh, and for this I use Vallejo's Sunny Skin Tone, but you can use whatever you have available. Just be careful here and use a small brush so that you don't get paint on the smock. For the painted equipment and helmets, I'll use olive grey as the base coat. Again, try not to get on any areas that I've already painted. Those famous red berets are painted in Vallejo's red. This is slightly darker red, so it worked well for that beret colour. I'll then turn my attention to the trousers, and these are painted in English uniform. Try again to be neat around the puttees and the bottom of the smock, as it's easier to paint it once than have to go back and revisit areas. The boots are painted in black. Ensure you don't get any paint on the puttees, and we're going to be leaving those in the same primer colour of the fawn. The next stage is the longest and the one that is most important to get right. Using a small brush, I begin work on the webbing and the equipment. This is painted in Russian uniform, and do be careful when painting over the top of the smock. As it's the largest area, it also takes a while to complete. I'll usually batch paint, and when you reach this stage it's worthwhile taking a break before you start, just to give your eyes a rest and so make sure that they're fresh. Then with beige brown I'll paint the stocks of the rifles and any other small arms, also any other wooden equipment that the soldiers might be carrying. As the beige brown is drying, I turn my attention to the base. I'll paint this using a slightly larger brush just to cover the base of the figure quickly. Be careful around the boots, but if you do overspill at this point you can always go back with a small brush and just paint the black in again. Then the final stage for the block colouring of the figures is painting the metal on the weapons. So the barrels, the bolts, magazines, and also any other bare metal that you can see using Vallejo's gunmetal. And that's the block painting done. So once the figure is completely dried, I'll use Games Workshop's AGRAX Earthshade to wash the figures. Make sure you get this into all the nooks and crannies, but if it does pool, just use your brush to draw it out to leave a smooth finish. Once the AGRAX has dried, it's time to start highlighting the figure. Generally, I start with the flesh. Using the base colour, I just pick out the raised areas with a very small brush and a good point. These are the nose, the cheeks, the chin, and also the hands. Then I'll turn my attention to the trousers. Using the English uniform, I paint the highlights on the creases to give a 3-toned appearance to the cloth. Using the Russian uniform, I revisit the webbing and the equipment again, just literally touching the raised areas to create a highlight over the base colour in the AGRAX wash. I also use Russian uniform to paint the camo stripes on the helmet. These are moulded onto the figure and they're quite easy to paint with tiny stripes and dabs. The final highlight is the rifle straps and the puttees, which I'll do in the base colour of fawn. Again, as with the highlighting step, just be careful that you don't overpaint onto other areas that you've already finished. Then the final thing to do is varnish the figures. I painted the full platoon before varnishing as I was using spray and I wanted to reduce my waste. Here I've just blue tacked the figures to a plastic box and ensured that I get a full coverage from the spraying. Also, make sure you do this outside or in a well ventilated room, or if you're wearing a mask. Then the final stage is to finish off the base, and for this I use static grass, which I stick down with undiluted PVA glue painted over the area of the base. You can put this on with a static grass applicator, but I don't bother. I just find that blowing on it actually makes the grass seem to stand up anyway. And that's them complete. Here they are with the recce jeeps from Skytrex to make up the full platoon of Sea Troop 1st Airborne Recce Squadron. This was a simple and easy way to paint these figures and to get them on the tabletop. They're not going to win any painted awards, but they do look grand from 3 feet away. And it probably took me about a week or so to complete the entire platoon. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video and haven't, please do subscribe. Also give me a like and say hello in the comments below. Also check out the Storm of Steel Patreon, Ko-fi and also channel memberships as well, which all helps me keep lights on at Steel Towers and make new videos.